Newsom vetoes U.S.'s first bill aimed at regulating large-scale artificial intelligence and passes law protecting consumer brain data. California enacts car data privacy law to curb domestic violence, and California governor vetoes. Newsom vetoes U.S.'s first bill aimed at regulating large-scale artificial intelligence and passes law protecting consumer brain data. California enacts car data privacy law to curb domestic violence, and California governor vetoes bill requiring speeding alerts in new cars. California law bans college legacy and donor admissions, including at USC, Stanford. Netflix cancellations spiked after Reed Hastings donated to Kamala Harris. 43 feet tall, naked Nevada Trump effigy vanishes after roadside ruckus. Man accused of attempting to assassinate Trump pleads not guilty to federal charges. Harris says she backs legalizing marijuana, going further than Biden. Trump says one rough hour of policing would end crime. Far right wins close Austria election, a boost for Putin. NYT endorses Harris as the only choice for president, as New York Times comments for Kamala Harris, the only patriotic choice for president. On September 20th, in-person voting begins for the U.S. presidential contest, kicking off the sprint to Election Day. CBS News to air QR code fact-check feature during vice presidential debate.
Vance and Walz keep it civil, in a policy-heavy discussion, in VP debate. UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, restates its profound concern as the U.S. government moves to make permanent its June 2024 asylum regulation. CBS cuts mics of Vance and Walz during immigration argument.
Trump backs out of 60 Minutes primetime interview, CBS says. In the U.S., Senate Democrats seek probe into Department of Justice's investigation of Trump and Egypt. Tim Walz said he was in Hong Kong during the Tiananmen Square massacre. He was home in Nebraska.
Shigeru Ishiba to be Japan's next PM after winning LDP leadership election, as Ishiba vows to protect nation, bolster U.S. alliance. Bloomberg reports as poverty soars past 50% in Argentina as Milei austerity hits hard. New Chinese nuclear attack submarine sank during construction, U.S. defense official says.
Brazil's top court imposes new fine before allowing X to resume service. Iranian operatives charged in the U.S. with hacking Donald Trump's presidential campaign. Meta blocks links to the hacked J.D. Vance dossier on Threads, Instagram, and Facebook. 2 days ago, X suspends journalist Ken Klippenstein after he published J.D. Vance dossier. OpenAI launches new multimodal content moderation model based on GPT-4o, capable of detecting text and images.
Trump brags about very good relationship with Putin while hosting Zelensky, and meeting with Zelensky. Trump says he will negotiate a Ukraine and Russia deal that's good for both sides. Hungarian PM Orban's aide sparks outrage with Soviet invasion comment, as Orban aide says Hungary would have surrendered to Russian invasion.
Trump praises Russia's military record in argument to stop funding Ukraine's fight. Russia revisits nuclear doctrine to allow attacks on non-nuclear states in response to Western weapons in Ukraine. Reuters reports that Russia has secret war drones project in China, intel sources say.
Armed man claims he came within feet of Obama outside LA restaurant. Trump briefed by intelligence officials about ongoing Iranian threats to assassinate him, campaign says. Secret Service agent under investigation for alleged sex assault on Harris aide.
Ukraine was first to implement drone swarm technology and attack more than 200 targets in Russia in a year, as announced by Defense Minister Umerov. Ukrainian troops detect 12,000 targets weekly with help of AI, announced by Ukraine's defense ministry. Iran's president says, "We have never approved of Russian aggression against Ukrainian territory," as Iranian president says his country doesn't support Moscow as Tehran allegedly transfers ballistic missiles to Russia.
In the UK, royals costing taxpayer more than £500 million, new report says. Pew Research announces that Brazilians mostly optimistic about country's global standing ahead of G20 summit. Trump unveils $100 coins with his face on them after selling Bibles, sneakers.
Iranian president says he does not want war with Israel, as Iran's president accuses Israel of seeking wider Mideast war and laying traps to lead Iran into it. Iraqi factions say ready to back Hezbollah in war with Israel. U.S. to send more troops after Israeli strikes kill nearly 500 in Lebanon. Netanyahu tells Lebanese to flee.
Syria's Bashar Assad appoints new cabinet with former foreign minister as new VP. Egypt delivers more weapons to Somalia amid rising tensions with Ethiopia. In Malaysia, viral video linked to Borneo secessionists sparks police investigation, as police investigating viral video of Malaysian flag being lowered in Australia. IDF spokesman Haggari said, "Every house we attacked in Lebanon contained Hezbollah weapons." Hezbollah responds as Israeli raids kill 558. Netanyahu vows to change balance of power, with Hezbollah as Israel unleashes heaviest strikes on Lebanon. Iran's guards banned communications devices after strike on Hezbollah, security officials say.
Law enforcement dismantles phishing platform iServer, used for unlocking stolen phones. Hacker behind Snowflake customer data breaches remains active. Interim NYPD commissioner says federal authorities seized materials from his homes, as feds execute search warrant on new NYPD commissioner just over a week after he was appointed. Hezbollah hits back with rockets, as it declares an open-ended battle with Israel. Israel raids and shuts down Al Jazeera's bureau in West Bank, while live on air.
Trump launches a new business venture during his campaign, the $100,000 watches. The Washington Post comments with, "A true friend of Turkey," for writers on the Eric Adams indictment. NYC Mayor Adams pleads not guilty to U.S. corruption charges, as feds charge NYC mayor with selling his influence to foreign nationals. He says he won't resign. Newsmax and Smartmatic settle 2020 election defamation case on eve of trial. Biden insists he would have beaten Trump in 2024 election, and Joe Biden says he delegated everything to Kamala Harris, foreign policy to domestic policy. Harris leads Trump among young voters, but falls short of Biden's 2020 winning margin. Eric Adams becomes first sitting NYC mayor indicted in historic federal probe, claims federal authorities persecuting him over migrant crisis. David Banks, New York City schools chancellor, to resign.
Congress passes bill to avert a shutdown before the election, sending it to Biden. Democrats introduce Obamacare tax credit extension bill, setting up fight with GOP.
Florida bans instruction on contraception and consent in sex ed classes. FBI reports increase in anti-LGBTQ hate crimes.
Musk says doomed humanity will never reach Mars if Harris becomes president. Trump promises immigrants he wants to deport will get serial numbers. Mark Robinson decries lies about porn site posts, then says they possibly happened, and Trump withdraws support. GOP pulls funding from Black Nazi Mark Robinson. Trump threatens John Deere with 200% tariffs if production moves to Mexico. J.D. Vance and Donald Trump told to stay away in Ohio newspaper. Janet Jackson fired manager who apologized for her Kamala Harris race comments. Manager claims.
TikTok removes Russian state media outlets RT and Sputnik, citing covert influence operations. Telegram will now hand over your phone number and IP if you're a criminal suspect. Kaspersky deletes itself, installs UltraAV antivirus without warning. 2 months ago, Kaspersky will shutter U.S. operations after software is banned by Commerce Department, citing risk.
Relations with Russia should be reconsidered after war in Ukraine, Macron says. Zelensky arrives in U.S. to discuss Ukraine's victory plan with Biden. Trump tells to Ukraine's president. Zelensky is greatest salesman, wants Democrats to win.
Northrop Grumman and Lithuania to partner on ammo production for IFVs, the infantry fighting vehicles, as Lithuania partners with Northrop Grumman to produce medium-caliber ammunition. New satellite images reveal failed launch of Sarmat intercontinental ballistic missile used by Putin for intimidation, as Russia's test launch of ICBM, known as Satan II, appears to have failed. Zelensky says Trump doesn't know how to end war, and Vance is too radical.
A court in Argentina orders the arrest of Venezuela's president and his right-hand man, as Argentine justice ordered the immediate arrest of Nicolas Maduro and Diosdado Cabello for serious crimes in Venezuela. Singapore former Minister Iswaran convicted, prosecution asks for 6 to 7 months jail, as hearing adjourns to October 3. Iswaran's lawyers seek 8 weeks. Tanzania's opposition leader Tundu Lissu arrested at his home, ahead of planned protests. New centre-right government in France announced 2 months after divisive elections. In the US, Republican Congress Speaker Mike Johnson axes Trump-backed bill, linked to proof of citizenship for new voters.
Janet Jackson reportedly apologizes to Kamala Harris, blames misinformation for comments. Recently, Janet Jackson echoes false claims that Kamala Harris is not black. Trump and Harris consider 60 Minutes interviews that would air on same day, claimed in a report. 2 days ago, Trump says it's too late after Harris agrees to October 23rd debate on CNN. Conservatives may have to create a new party after the GOP became corrupted by Trump, Liz Cheney suggests. Trump says he doesn't see himself running in 2028 if he loses in November.
Man pleads guilty to illegally operating crypto ATM network in the UK. Crypto billionaire Zhao vows more tech investment. After leaving US custody, Robinhood launches crypto transfers in Europe with 1% deposit match. Mango Markets agrees to destroy MNGO tokens in SEC settlement. Robinhood, Revolut reportedly looking to rival Tether with stablecoin launches. US charges Joker's stash and Rescator money launderers.
Former FTX executive Caroline Ellison faces sentencing. SBF's neurodivergence saw him misinterpreted at trial, doctors argue. OpenAI news account on X compromised, sends crypto posts. AI-related cryptos lead altcoin surge. Bitcoin breakout nears with several catalysts in Q4, announced by analyst. Signum Unit receives Liechtenstein license as a crypto asset service provider. Harris says her White House will invest in America's future, which includes digital assets, as Harris vows to aid AI, crypto sectors and pitch to NYC donors.
JP Morgan's Onyx blockchain used for Siemens' digital commercial paper settlement. Canada shifts focus from CBDCs to payments landscape. Spanish rights group Ejida introduces alternative financing tool Sigo Creative at the 72nd San Sebastian Festival. White House urges dockworkers and East Coast ports to settle differences amid strike threat, and dockworkers at ports from Maine to Texas go on strike, a standoff risking new shortages. Trump says he asked Musk for Starlink in Helen-hit towns. Police stop more black drivers, while speed cameras issue unbiased tickets, announced in a new study from Chicago. eBay wins dismissal of U.S. lawsuit over sale of harmful products. T-Mobile pays $31.5 million FCC settlement over 4 data breaches. YouTube inks deal with SZA to restore music videos for Adele, Nirvana, Bob Dylan, and more in U.S.
France to consider corporate tax increase to lower budget deficit. Claudia Sheinbaum is sworn in as Mexico's first female president. Former Dutch leader Rutte takes NATO reins with pledge to keep up Ukraine aid. Pirate library LibGen must pay publishers $30 million, but no one knows who runs it, as U.S. court orders LibGen to pay $30 million to publishers, issues broad injunction. California's new law forces digital stores to admit you're just licensing content, not buying it. Steam will let you sue Valve now.
In the U.S., deepfake caller poses as Ukrainian official in exchange with key senator. MoneyGram goes offline as it investigates cybersecurity problem. Caroline Ellison, FTX founder's former girlfriend and key witness in his fraud trial, sentenced to 2 years in prison.
Google's shift to Rust programming cuts Android memory vulnerabilities by 52%. LG TVs start showing ads on screensavers. Axios reports that Koch's equity company eyes Forbes deal.
U.S. investigating SAP Caresoft for possible price fixing. FBI probing Silicon Valley Venture Capital Fund for passing trade secrets to China. Claimed in a report. Dozens of Fortune 100 companies have unwittingly hired North Korean IT workers, according to report.
Hezbollah asked Iran to attack Israel, Israeli and Western officials say. Reuters reports that Iran brokering talks to send advanced Russian missiles to Yemen's Houthis, sources say. China-linked hackers breach U.S. internet providers in new Salt Typhoon cyber attack.
Nancy Pelosi's husband sold more than $500,000 worth of Visa stock, just weeks before DOJ's antitrust lawsuit. Precious genius Elon Musk love bombs, Beautiful Georgia Maloney at Think Tank Awards, and Elon Musk denies romantic relationship with Georgia Maloney after Italian PM calls him precious genius. PayPal enables business accounts to buy, hold, and sell cryptocurrency, except New York State.
Royal Canadian Navy requires its first new submarine to be delivered by the mid-2030s, as current Victoria-class submarine fleet is scheduled to be decommissioned then. Mainland China's Norinco unveils drone that can reach Taiwan and may outperform U.S. rival. Pentagon to spend $500 million on women's health research.
Ford patents drug detection system to protect consumers from planted drugs. China's car dealers struggle with $20 billion in losses amid price war. Make Chinese cars in Russia. Industry group urges manufacturers as import costs mount. In the UK, Rachel Reeves sets apart Labour's fiscal approach from the Tories and signals more borrowing. EU pledges to loan Ukraine up to $39 billion to help rebuild its economy and power grid. Major banks commit to triple global nuclear capacity by 2050.
Japan destroyer inadvertently entered China waters. Captain sacked. Russian warship fired at Norwegian fishing boat. As small Norwegian fishing boat confronted Russian warship during live shooting exercise. China threatens to detonate the relationship if Milei criticizes them at the UN. People's Bank of China will soon cut reserve requirement ratio by 50 base points as China rolls out sweeping stimulus measures to buoy sagging economy. China's yuan gains ground after rate cuts, exporters' U.S. dollar exodus. FT comments as it's no longer glorious to get rich in China, it's dangerous. Commerzbank, UniCredit shares fall as Germany plans to keep 12% stake. Olaf Scholz says Germany opposes a Commerzbank takeover as UniCredit boosts its stake in Commerzbank, applies to own up to 29.9% of the German bank. USA's Department of Justice to sue Visa over debit card market monopoly, Bloomberg News reports. Citigroup's China expansion plan delayed by U.S. regulators.
U.S. targets China's rare earths dominance with Minerals Security Finance Network. India's finished steel imports from China hit 7-year high in April through August, data shows. Samsung plans to invest $1.8 billion more in Vietnam for OLED manufacturing.
China's Leapmotor and Stellantis open orders in Europe for budget EVs, and Stellantis begins search for new CEO, lays out plan to improve U.S. business. SpaceX disputes $633,000 FAA fine, citing systematic challenges with agency. WordPress co-creator Matt Mullenweg calls WP Engine a cancer to WordPress and urges community to switch providers.
NORAD detects 4 Russian military aircraft near Alaska after U.S. Army recently deployed soldiers to area. Reportedly, U.S. seeks control of Russian S-400s in exchange for Turkey's return to F-35 program, as Turkey nears deal to decommission S-400 air defenses and return to F-35 fighter program, claimed in reports. Russia will not resume nuclear test unless U.S. does, as announced by Deputy FM.
Hamas commander killed in Israeli strike-led UN Refugee Agency Teachers Union, as UNRWA confirms Hamas leader in Lebanon was its employee. Netanyahu says killing Nasrallah is key to restoring power balance and recovering hostages. The Independent comments as a scandal at the Jewish Chronicle also goes to the top of the BBC, and New York Times comments as a 180-year-old Jewish paper is roiled by fabrications and a secret. Who owns it?
The Guardian reports that Russia's FSB protected evil corp gang that carried out NATO cyber attacks. Apple quietly deletes nearly 100 VPNs that allowed Russians to get around censorship. In the U.S., Russian national indicted for series of ransomware attacks, using the BitPaymer ransomware variant.
Iran launches about 180 ballistic missiles at Israel. Biden directed U.S. military to help Israel shoot down Iranian missiles. Politico reports that U.S. officials quietly backed Israel's military push against Hezbollah. Tens of thousands of illegal immigrants with sexual assault, murder convictions in U.S., as per ICE data. Just Stop Oil protesters jailed for throwing soup at Van Gogh's sunflowers. New York Times comments as, in the U.S., in a first among Christians, young men are more religious than young women. Hezbollah confirms its leader Hassan Nasrallah was killed in an Israeli airstrike. Netanyahu distances himself from U.S.-led proposal for ceasefire in Lebanon, as Israel and Hezbollah ceasefire report is false, Netanyahu's office says. Palestinian journalist Bison Oda and AJ Plus win Emmy